I'm Darlene Hanson, and I'm the director or the training coordinator for Disability Voices United. On this team, the empowerment team, I'm kind of the lead person, but I have a team of people that I work with uh, that help put this together once a month. So up in your up on the top screen here, you're going to see Michaela. And Michaela, do you want to give the announcement about anything that you need people to know technology-wise?
Yeah, definitely. I was missing my written instructions, so I'm pulling those up. But I can say out loud while I do that that every single person needs to pick interpretation. We're simulcasting in Spanish and English. So you'll see a little globe at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it, you need to click the three dots that say more, and then you'll see that little globe that says interpretation. If you're listening in English, you'll pick English. If you're listening in Spanish, you'll pick Spanish. And that way we'll be able to all hear in our native tongue while things are translated live.
And Michaela's in the background, so if you have a question about wanting something that we talk about, she's either going to pull it up and get it to you right away, or she'll get it to you later. But if you need technical questions, send them her way. Okay. Then we have the other part of our team. We have William Del Rosario. Sorry, William, I'm interrupting you. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is William Del Rosario, and I am a Hispanic Filipino male in my 20s with short black hair, brown eyes, and I wear glasses. I'm an intern with DVU and a multimodal communicator who uses augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, via typing and my iPad. Thank you for making the time to be here.
Thanks, William. And then the other person on our team is Nina Spiegelman.
Hi, everybody. I'm the policy director for DVU. And, I love these gatherings so much because access to communication and communication supports is a key policy area for DVU. So thank you all for coming, and can't wait to hear our speakers today.
Thanks, Nina. I always forget to do my visual description, and William reminds me every time because he doesn't forget. That's a perk for having pre-programmed communication. I'm sure. I'm sure you would forget if you had to speak at William. But um, so I am I'm a boomer. I'll call myself a baby boomer, and that's how old I am. And I have a little bit longer than shoulder length, grayish hair, and I'm white, and I wear red framed glasses, and I'm wearing a gray jacket with a little necklace today, and sitting in front of a green background that says Disability Voices United. Okay, so we're going to get started in this afternoon. And the first thing I wanted to do is introduce Alyssa Penn from Toby Dynavox. So Alyssa emailed, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I guess, telling us all about, I don't know who, I'm assuming you were talking personally to me. You might have been talking to a larger group, but I took it personally. And so I reached out because she's got a project that I thought was a good thing for all of you to know about that's going on at Toby Dynavox, so she can use your help. So Alyssa, why don't you explain and talk about how we can get involved? And just so you know, you're muted.
There we go. It says the host does not allow me to unmute myself, so I was typing to request an unmute.
Very good.
Hello, my name is Alyssa. I am a solutions consultant for Toby Dynavox. I cover the South LA territory, so think like Inglewood down to Long Beach, out to Pomona, and then along the county line. And I work with adults only in that region. But Toby Dynavox, as a kind of bigger organization, is working on a project. And yeah, I was so excited when Darlene reached out to see if we could connect so that I could talk to you guys a little bit about it. I will give my visual description. Darlene gave a good reminder. I am white. I have dark brown hair that is currently in a ponytail, so you can't really see how long it is. I am wearing a navy blue t-shirt in front of a blurred background, and I have a nose ring. Um, so Toby Dynavox recently this year, kind of last year into this year, is funded a survey called the Health Economic Survey. Basically, the goal of this survey is to gather information from users of AAC and also their family members, caregivers, kind of anyone who has a stake in their life, in order to provide an understanding to a wider audience about the value that AAC can bring. So, this audience can include insurance companies, politicians, things like that. We have some preliminary data from kind of the preliminary run of the survey, which is showing us that AAC is helpful and important, and all the things that I'm sure you guys all here know about it, but the things that we want to be able to send as a message to the wider world. So Toby Dynavox took on the funding of this survey and commissioned it out to a third party. So I'm like kind of a science nerd. So when I heard about it, I was like, but the bias. But it is commissioned out to a third party research organization that is running it. So we don't see anything about it until it is compiled, and then they send it back to us. So your responses are anonymous. We don't have any kind of stake in the outcome, and you can participate in it no matter what kind of AAC device you have. So it is not an only Toby Dynavox thing. We want as many people to participate as possible. So no matter what kind of device you have, you are welcome, and we would love for you to take the survey. So what I'll do is share my screen, and we will have you will have the QR code. So if you guys scan this code, it should take you directly to the survey. And then also there's a link that I believe will go in the chat that should also take you to the survey. So I believe if I remember correctly, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete the whole thing. But yeah, that's about it. But yeah, anyone who can take it, we would be really grateful. We have been doing a lot of lobbying, insurance companies, politicians, kind of the wider community to get the word out there about how important AAC is, and hopefully make it easier for anyone who needs it to access and get a device funded.
Very good. So can you, because you said it was going to probably take around 20, 30 minutes to do the survey, can people start it and then save it and then go back to it, or do they need to be prepared to sit through the whole thing in a whole setting?
I
One setting.
believe you can start it and stop it. I am not 100% sure, but my
Okay.
understanding is that you can start and stop it.
Okay. That's just something to think about for us, because I know some people fatigue and then they have to, because if it takes a half hour for other people to do it, it might take 45 minutes at least
Yeah.
to an hour, right? So you
Yeah.
might want to stop and start.
Yeah, I can confirm it actually hopefully before I jump off, but
Okay.
I'm fairly confident you can start and stop it.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great. Good. And Alyssa and I were talking about how redundant it seems to have to do such a study, but to get people to appreciate that maybe people should have access to technology for communication. But sometimes we have to have these surveys and this kind of documentation to express the obvious to other people. So this would be great if this question that might be in some people's minds as to whether or not people really need it could get answered, and get that off the table and stop asking that question. That would be really good, right?
Yeah, the more data we have, the better. So yeah, unfortunate that we need to do it, but it's the reality we're living in right now. So we want to get ahead of it as much as possible.
Yep. Great. Thanks. If anybody has any questions, then you can put them in the chat. Alyssa, can you hang out for a few minutes just in case there's some questions that come through?
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes it takes people a little while to type out their answers.
Yeah, I will hang out. And then while I do that, let me send a quick message to make sure you can start and stop the survey as well.
Mhm. Great.
While
And
you're
I
doing that,
think,
I'm just going to mention one more time because it seems like some people came in and are looking. We do have Spanish interpretation. So you need to go to the globe at the bottom that says interpretation and select English or Spanish, and then you'll be able to listen to the whole meeting in Spanish. And I'll put the written instructions one more time too.
great. And I'm going to call on you, G. Rocchio. I'm not sure if you have a question, but looks like you might. Go ahead.
Sí, sí,
Do-
buenas tardes. Me metí a la encuesta, pero solo está en inglés. ¿Habrá algún modo que la pueda hacer en español? Y la interpretación, sí, se lo agradezco mucho la interpretación para toda la reunión. Gracias.
I will look into getting it in Spanish. I only currently have the English link, but let me look into it and see if I can get it in Spanish for you. That's a great question.
Great. Okay, that was a good question. And then Joanna is asking, is it helpful if we have several people from one household fill it out? Say the user, the parents. Oh yeah. What if multiple, is it that kind of survey where multiple people, not just the user, should give their opinion as well?
Yeah. So
Okay.
multiple people, as many people who want and feel comfortable doing it, the more the merrier. So it doesn't have to just be AAC users. It's AAC users, family, caregivers, anyone who is interacting and has a stake for that person.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know.
Darlene,
Mhm.
in the chat, we also have someone who asked, what is AAC? Are you able to just give a brief explanation? Thank you.
Sure. AACs is the acronym for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. People who have limited or no speech use that to augment so that they can say more than they can with their body language or with their limited speech. So it could be an iPad. Alyssa's from Tobii Dynavox, which is one of the vendor companies, but she's representing a survey that is for anybody. It's not just for Tobii Dynavox users. So that's hopefully answers the question. And you'll learn more today, I think. That's what we're talking about. Great. Okay, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we can get some more input out there to you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I put those questions into our wider team. So when I get the answers, I will shoot them over to you guys in an email.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye. All right. And I think Bernadette's here somewhere. Not quite sure
Yep.
where. But...
And I made her a
Oh, there she
co-host so
is.
she can unmute.
Okay.
Oh.
Great. So I'm going to introduce the topic, and then we're going to bring, and you guys can bring in Bernadette and Cheyenne and myself, and we will get started on our topic for the day. The empowerment team was talking about, and we're always listening to what the current needs are and the vibe is from everybody on the calls, and then also out in the community. And I think that people are really interested and needing, rather, even if they don't know it, but needing to understand more about how to put AAC into their lives, right? Put it into their families, put it into, make it part of your experience rather than something you do at therapy. Okay. AAC is often given a goal, which makes people think it's a therapy item, but it's not. It's communication. It happens all day long. So that's really the theme of today's session. We're going to hear from Bernadette and Cheyenne, and where you guys can pick their brains for ideas. There's no stupid questions, but just I want to really, get this topic covered because I feel like it's the most important piece is that people see communication as a part of their life, not something they go to for therapy or do at school, right? And so I want to help answer those kind of questions. So before we get started real quick, Tom, I might have another question. I'm not sure. Tom, do you have a question again? I don't see Tom anymore on my screen, so maybe not. Okay.
I clicked on Tom, and so just so everybody hears the instructions for this as well, if you raise your hand to ask a question, it'll send you a little message that says unmute. Okay, so I'll give you permission to unmute.
Okay. Right, and I'm not sure, Tom, you might have been talking about Prop 15, which, yes, we do want people, Prop 50. We want people to get out there and vote. Okay, so let's get started. I want to introduce today's presenters. I have Cheyenne Rodriguez, and she is an assistive technology specialist from the Central California area. Works down here in Southern California periodically as well, but works with families and schools and people I ask her to work with as well. So I have Cheyenne, and then I also have Bernadette with us today. And Bernadette is a speech and language pathologist. Both these ladies I've known for a very long time. And Bernadette works I think you're primarily AAC. You can tell us if you're not, if you do other stuff too. I know you as an AAC person. And so they were my two go-tos on this topic. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to unmute you guys both. Here we go. And keep you unmuted because it's going to be a dialogue. So we're not doing a presentation with a PowerPoint. It's just going to be us talking. All right. Feel free to jump into the chat at any time. But I wanted to get us started with what are your tips or ideas or views or observations even on incorporating AAC into our families? And Bernadette, you want to start us off with that one?
Okay, sure. And yes, I do primarily do AAC. Our company, Trinity Consulting, does have therapists that focus on traditional speech therapy as well. But
okay.
AAC has been my love for a lot of years. You know, when you bring AAC into a family, it changes things. And I think one of the first things that I try to encourage families to do is just for everybody, in order to help everyone get on board, we want to just begin by just desensitizing, right? Other family members, which means giving everyone exposure. So when AAC is new to a home, I encourage everybody to try to use the device, everybody to learn to use the device and become comfortable with it. Now, certainly the AAC user at some point is going to take ownership and maybe they don't want anyone to touch it. You know, over time that happens. But really, desensitization to me is really an important step that I like to start with, that a lot of people kind of skip over because they just want to jump into let's program it and what can he or she say with it, as opposed to everybody just recognizing, okay, we can touch it, we can hold it. You know, it's not some big, beautiful, shiny thing that nobody gets to touch. And I think that's important. That gets overlooked a lot of time because families are like, whoa, let's, you know, be careful, put it up over there. That's, you know, so-and-so's device and it's expensive. And you know, no, we need to pull it out and everybody get comfortable with it. And let's start with that.
That's a really good observation. I like that. Very nice. How about for you, Cheyenne? What are your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely echo everything that Bernadette said, but I think definitely helping families recognize that it is a transformative tool, right? We know that there's so much that can happen with it, but keeping it natural and also making sure that we are being realistic about the expectations of the individual. We as support people want to make sure we know how to use the system, right? Just like Bernadette said. So us getting comfortable with how do we find words, what's embedded in the system, while also being patient and mindful that this is a learning process for that individual as well as ourselves. Because I think a lot of the time families right away get really maybe overwhelmed or you know, challenged by the dynamic of the system, because a lot of the time those systems are pretty robust, and so I think families don't necessarily know where to go first with it. But I would say being realistic about how we want to use it and keeping it natural, because I think you know, we have in a school-based world or in our goal world, we have things that we're trying to obtain with the system. But I think being realistic, embedding it into your everyday life and keeping it natural is really going to help the individual feel comfortable with using it in the home setting.
Yeah.
I think customization has a big part in that too, because a lot of times you'll have your professionals that are seeking to make sure we've got all our school words in there and the vocabulary and the curriculum. But when we're at home and we're just sitting around the table or watching TV, there's things, you know, I think every family has kind of its own culture. and their phrases and things that people say that maybe other people outside the home don't get, right? You know, inside, I won't say any of ours in our home, but it would make sense to you anyways. But our AAC users, let's customize that vocabulary for them so they can also maybe not initiate the joke, but they can contribute to it so they can be a part of it, you know, or maybe there's a family member that has a nickname and everybody always just chooses that nickname. Well, traditionally, the SLP is going to ask you to write a name of all your family members, and maybe those things like nicknames get left out, right? Things that really help really the AAC user be a part of those family dynamics. Those things are important as well.
Yeah, I think that is a big portion, is making sure that the family that is supporting the individual that's using AAC can contribute to the vocabulary as well, so that they can have those natural and fun or meaningful or motivating phrases and words that they can use with their family.
And William added, it's so important. It's hard for me to get regulated when my support is fearful of technology. It is okay to learn together. And I think the kind of the visual I give of that, or the story I put to that, is if you think about speaking, or you have a baby or an infant or a toddler, and you're teaching them communication, you don't teach them, well, some people do, but I don't know that's a great idea, but you don't teach them in the same structure of language and the same vocabulary as you would talk to a professional that you're working with, or a college student or something like that, right? I'm not saying baby talk, but there's a way that it's acceptable, and a way that it's developing kind of the relationship and the vocabulary together. And it's not perfect. That's my point. It's not perfect. It's just us connecting with shared information. That's what communication is. And so you don't have to sit there and go, oh, where's the is and where's the and no, don't just press the buttons that go with what you're trying to talk about or experiencing, what you're experiencing or
meaning.
doing. Yeah, just something meaningful. And if you can put two buttons in, then put two buttons in. If you can't find the second button, don't worry about it. And you don't talk that way. You talk like regular. but you
Right.
show the vocabulary that goes with what you're saying, and you accept that. And you all might have, if you've heard me talk before, and I probably have said it on this CAC meetings, but it's kind of like when people are using sign language. If you are a person who uses sign language as your mode of communication, you don't say all of the words. The ASL is you say the point, you say the message, right? And when there is a thing called signing exact English, and you do say all the words there, but deaf and hearing impaired people
Everybody.
don't usually talk in that way. And so my deaf friends who, when I've talked in C sign, they thought I was they laughed at me like, what is she doing? Why is she talking to us that way? You know, because that's not how the conversation goes. And so don't get hung up on how perfect you have to be, is my point on the AAC. Just explore it, make mistakes, think out loud, and go, I don't know where that button is. I had it last time. Do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think to that point, it's a wonderful point that William made. When I do a training, I use a handout, and there's an acronym called FAIL. Some of you might have seen it. I think it came off from Cough Drop several years ago. But the first one is forget, and that means don't feel bad if you forget where something is, right? A stands for ask for help. And I think that that's such a valuable skill, because our AAC users need to know how to ask for help. So if you're modeling and you can't find a word, then if you want to say, oh, I forgot where this is, I need some help, and teach them how to ask for help, or teach them how to get help within their system. The I in FAIL stands for be imperfect. And I thought about it when you said, be perfect. No one's perfect. And it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to model that imperfection is a normal part of life, so that, guess what? We understand. And then as an AAC user, if I'm imperfect, oh, it's okay. So was my support person. They're imperfect too. It's fine, right? And the L in FAIL stands for learn something new, right? Which is what William mentioned and what you mentioned, Darlene. We learn together. So it's okay to fail. Right? If you're implementing all these things, it's perfectly okay to fail.
I think too, also just celebrating every win because sometimes, even just carrying my communication device and having it in different environments, like that's a win. I think sometimes we get really set on wanting to use it for just specific, purposes, communicative functions. But I think just keeping it in our environments and having it at the tabletop and taking it with us on the go and being comfortable with looking through it together, all of that is important for a user themselves as well as the support people that are learning as well.
Absolutely. So what about, okay, so communication is an exchange of information. That means it takes two people. And so I see myself as a support person. I'm sure that you both see yourselves as support people as well, um, to making the communication happen. Number one, I want to say that's not cheating. Okay, it's not cheating to need a communication support person. It's normal. It's acceptable in most realms, except if you have an IEP sometimes. I'm not an AAC user, in which case you're supposed to do everything by yourself, which makes no sense because no one does that. So what do you both feel is important for us to remember as communication partners to be prepared with? Shan, why don't you go first on this one?
Oh, all right. So my number one when it comes to being a communication partner is presuming competence. I think we have to make sure that we are providing our individuals with successful opportunities while also believing in their abilities. And I think that if we all recognize that we're all capable of learning, connecting, sharing, and we have you know innate things that we can contribute and we have things we believe, these are all components um, of being a communicator and connecting with others. So if we can presume competence, I think that is the number one, something we can't always teach. And so I always in my trainings talk about that and try to put a big emphasis on that because again, with AAC, it can be, it is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And so we have to be considering that it could take people time um, and continuous use and implementation and support from other people, but that if we all believe that this person's capable of learning and sharing and connecting, that's going to, I think also bring that confidence to the communicator. So that's usually my number one. I have others too, but I'll let Burnett share if she has anything else she wants to add.
I think that's a wonderful number one by all means. And it kind of goes in line. I had some number ones and when you said assume communication competence, what came to mind was the thought of just being open-minded. Yeah. Being open-minded because my number one was if you're going to be a support person, you do need to learn the system yourself. That was really kind of my kind of number two. You can't just show up and don't know anything, but then you're going to be of a support, right? So you have to take the time to invest in understanding the system yourself. And I think that's really is really critical because I've seen a lot of AAC users with a lot of potential who have people around them that aren't vested. They just, okay, they sign the paperwork, they've got a device and you're going to come and work with them. Okay, fine. And then they walk away and AAC users need support. So I think if you want to be a prepared support person, then take the time to invest yourself in learning and understanding how this person communicates, whether it's how their device uses or understanding how their body works or understanding what their triggers are. All of those things are important, but I think that is really key to being a prepared support person because you can watch videos on programming, you can watch videos, but you need to invest in learning and understanding. That's how you prepare yourself to come to the job, and then all these other things can fall in line.
Yeah. I remember when I first started working with Sue Rubin, who's an AAC user. She's in her 40s now. And we didn't know that Sue understood as much as she understands at the time. And so we were exploring math and we put her on a computerized math program because this was back in the day before you had any curriculum coming into special ed for mod severe classrooms. No, there was no curriculum. And so we didn't have any. So we had to go next door to get some curriculum on the computer. Anyways, so we're sitting there like this, looking at the computer, trying to figure out what that math, how that was going to work and where are we going to click and what are they asking her to do and all this stuff. Get all done with it, run her through it. And she did great. And then we said, so how do you think that went, Sue? And she goes, next time, learn how to do it first. Because she was like sitting there waiting for
Yes.
us to figure it
She's
out.
dying. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying, Bernadette, is learn the system yourself.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be sitting there going, you guys are a bunch of ding dongs.
Yeah. And you know, the fact of the matter is a lot of our AAC users, they don't have that ability to sit and wait for you to get it
Right.
together. You know, and then
Yeah.
when they start doing this or whatever, then you're like,
Mhm.
oh, what's, you know, they're
Mhm.
just frustrated with you. So yeah.
Exactly. That's great. William
Yeah.
says, love that focus on being capable and interested in learning, not assuming persons knows everything. Yeah. And he's not the only one that needs to know how it works. You need to know how it works too, right?
Mhm.
You need to know. Yeah, that's great. Any more tips for your support persons?
Oh gosh, loaded question. I think definitely being consistent, making sure that AAC is always available.
Mhm.
Again, using the strategy of modeling. I think we might touch on that a little bit more as the conversation continues. But modeling, just as Bernadette says, making sure that we can move ourselves around the system, we can model and show, even without expectancy of using it. I think sometimes people think that we just give a person a communication device and now they're a competent communicator, and that's just not the fact, right? There's energy and effort that has to happen in order for it to be really a supportive tool to communicators. So again, being consistent about having that system out regularly and reliably. And I think AAC at large, if we're talking about devices, that is making sure the device is charged and accessible, and that even the AAC setup and vocabulary and layout is accessible. But then if we're also talking about low tech, that's making sure that we always have low tech materials with us at all times. Even if, you know, we're just going on a walk, right? We still want to make sure
Mhm.
communication's happening. It happens all the time and always. So we need to make sure those tools are available. Um, yeah, and I think being patient with the process, modeling, encouraging, not getting stuck into that question trap where we only ask questions of the communicator, but we're also using it to comment and model how we can be using the various language in that system in different opportunities and moments with others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think those are really valid points. You mentioned that. I think every high-tech system should have a low-tech backup.
Mhm.
Always, 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 always. So that's critical, and that's part of being a prepared, I think, support person too, is knowing that, hey, my if I'm out supporting um excuse me, a person and their batteries die, right? Oh, no worries. We can still keep talking. I'm just going to pull out my low
Yep.
tech and let's keep going. And then I think lastly, I might say an important tip is to be comfortable with what your role is. So when we're talking about communication, there's communication partners and there's communication assistants. So understanding when to be which, because maybe if there aren't any communication demands in the scenario that you're in, you might just be that communication partner and you might just talk back and forth, but recognizing when to step out of that role and be the assistant, where I'm just the communication assistant right now and not the partner, because sometimes people want, I've seen instances where the communication support person is really kind of given the language a little bit and being that partner instead of making sure that the AAC user is giving, that they're just assisting them to communicate their desires. So just knowing, making sure you're comfortable when, if those roles change, when they
Mhm.
change.
Yeah, that's good. I see you, Lulu. 1 second here. Now I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Oh, this is something that comes up, I think, a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard this, where sometimes as communication partners or even communication assistants, we go to the name of independence. And so we'll say, oh, he uh, needs to go get it himself, or he didn't bring it, or it's not charged, or it's still in his backpack, or whatever the he threw it out the window of the bus, whatever the thing is that happens. And there's, in many situations, not most, but many situations, your job is to know the person's profile and the need for accommodations and support. And so if you have somebody who isn't responsible with their device, for example, but is learning to take that responsibility, then him throwing it out the bus window is kind of on you, because you weren't supporting him in a way that made that a more effective thing for him to have it available to him. Some people, you might need to carry the fancy device at a time with,
Okay.
and then develop ways that he can initiate that he wants to take a turn, or create opportunities, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Because don't say, oh, I gave it to him and he threw it and he throws it every time, and not take responsibility for the fact that that's something he's working on. And that's our job, to help him work on that. Right. So that comes up, I think, often, where I'm going to say blame, but it's probably a better word, is put on the ownership of that is put on the individual who actually is in need of that support to be a more effective communicator and responsible communicator. That's the goal right now. And then if that is the case, then that's our job to step there. Now,
Absolutely.
Lulu has her hand raised. So I'm going to bring Lulu in, or Michaela's going to bring Lulu in.
We need a plan sometimes.
Lulu, you can unmute.
Sí, buenas tardes. Pues yo solo quería decir que creo que una de las cosas que yo no he encontrado, no sé si exista, si alguien me ayudó, pero dentro de lo que son las aseguranzas que pagan las terapias, no hay un entrenamiento para los padres. Entonces creo que sería muy conveniente que se pudiera poner esto como parte de las necesidades de una persona, para que alguien que va a ayudarle pues esté entrenado por un especialista de cómo ayudarle, de cómo seguir las metas, de cómo trabajar integrándolo a la comunidad, en sus necesidades, en su casa, en la comunidad y todo lo necesario. Entonces es algo que creo que ahora con los recortes no sé, pero yo creo que es algo que debemos de trabajar para que se ponga este tiempo, para que se entrene a la persona, o en este caso a los padres, pero si no, pues a los hermanos, las personas que estén encargadas de apoyar a esta persona. Así que creo que esto es muy importante, en lo que no se ha dado, no se puede todavía, y eso limita muchísimo el apoyo que reciben. Así que creo que sería algo de lo que tenemos que empezar a hablar.
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you guys have any, do ladies have any feedback for how to make sure that kind of follow-up support is provided to individuals? It sounds like, Lulu, you're talking about insurance-wise. Same thing probably applies to school districts, but any tips or ideas on that? Cheyenne, you're unmuted.
Yeah. So I can't speak fully on the insurance component. Maybe Burnett or you, Darlene, can touch more on that. But as far as even from a school-based perspective, if the individual is at the age of receiving their education still, and they are receiving support from a speech pathologist or a T specialist, and receiving and using a device throughout their school day, I would definitely collaborate with that team, that case carrier, the speech person on that team, the AT person on that team, to make sure that you as a family also know how to support the use of that system, and really advocating for wanting to have access to that system across all environments, because communication doesn't just stop after school. We know this, right? And so being able to communicate with those specialists on the team, and hopefully gathering an understanding between both parties that you want to support your student or child just as much as they are during school, and getting training or consultation or collaboration between both parties is powerful. And I think even as the person ages out of the school system, that's even more crucial, that we as the education team are supporting families to understand the communication supports and systems outside of the school as well. And I know that, I work in schools as well, and that's something that I actively do with the families. I think, again, that open line of communication is imperative. And if you have an interest, say something, right?